Now, if somebody don't show up, can we jump in and sing?
If you
I can
don't
give a
sing,
ooh yeah.
as long as it's good now, because it's going on tape and the show airs on News Channel 5 Plus. So we don't want to embarrass ourselves. We don't want to make the people who don't not saved come in and say, "Woo, the people they supposed to be saved, they can't sing." But anyway, but listen, we're just coming in, Pastor Hill. A lot been going on, man. Since last time I saw you, and how's everything going with you? We're getting into the conversation.
Man, it's been wonderful. I'm actually, coming by to pay my penance.
We always appreciate that.
Leaving the governor's mansion. Just left.
Okay.
Faith-based leaders in the eastern, middle, and western, all of our 3 divisions. We are assembled literally down the street here.
Okay.
I didn't know where the governor lived till today. Do you know where the mansion is?
No, I have no idea.
And right, literally.
So the governor's mansion is actually where he lives. It serves like the White House, almost like the White House. Right?
I would say so.
Okay.
I was out there from 9 to 4. We talked about a lot of initiatives, and
with the governor,
with government,
okay.
and faith based.
Okay.
The community, how the language is sometimes different,
okay,
and how we need to collaborate linguistically,
okay,
so that we can put boots on the ground and make sure that the services that the community needs is actually being executed.
okay.
So, man, we put some frameworks together and some ambassadors together. I won't call out any pastor's name. Probably I will on my show next week until I get that permission. But it was a very diverse group of individuals. And I'm grateful, Orlando, for the fact to just be in that room with the mindset and how there are some people in government at that level who still believe Bible and God.
Okay.
And not kicking it and not knocking it and not trying to change us for believing in what our country was founded upon. And the representation at that table, believe it or not, looked like you and I. Some of the directors and the commissioners. I'm like,
is that right?
The regions. Yes. I was like, I thought I was at TSU homecoming there for a minute. And people wouldn't think that.
Okay.
Because we are a very red state. And that's not diminishing us.
Yeah.
But the governor literally wants Tennessee to become a state where faith-based initiatives becomes a priority and a part of legislation, like you were talking about earlier. How do we meet fathers? Everything was directed toward a young mother or mothers. What do we do with young men?
Yes.
What programs do we have for fathers? What programs do we have for the mentally ill? What programs are in place for those individuals who are graduating out of foster care? So it was it was intense, and I'm grateful. So if anybody's listening, any preacher, y'all call in.
Okay.
Doc, it was a wonderful experience.
Well, I'm gonna try to segue on that experience that you had with government in Tennessee, ironically at the governor's mansion. Kyra said she just came from something from TSU, right? Or going to something?
Yes, that was yesterday.
And just Wednesday, we had the president of the TSU students of the board, and he was one of the ones that got basically removed.
Okay. Trustee board?
Yeah, from the trustee board.
Okay, trustee.
By the governor. He said that on this radio station, said we were in the middle of the interview for the next president when we were told, hey, it's over for y'all. So they're in the middle of an interview of the next president, like it's over for y'all. They had another interview to go to.
Right.
So that same governor did that to TSU.
Right.
I know you have connections with TSU.
Oh my God.
Like, kind of make that make sense, because a lot of people in from that side of things was like, man, that was so dirty from how they did that. I know that it's a state school, board of regions, and all that stuff.
Correct.
But that was, come on now.
Yeah.
Come on.
Are you gonna go first? Or
I'm
you
gonna
want me to
say,
answer?
I think you can answer, but I'm just going to say it's never what you say or what you do, but it's how you do it,
Okay.
which is the art of rhetoric.
Okay.
And so I just feel like maybe a more courteous rhetoric could have been given to the board members, could have been given. And again, this is just what we're hearing because we don't know what was done in the background.
Correct.
So we don't know if, there were notifications. And I mean, listen, I worked in radio where they've had notifications and people, the person still came in and locked the studio and was determined to do their show.
Got you.
So again, we don't know what was in the background. All we're hearing is the assumption. But I also know rhetoric is very big. It could have been possibly handled a little bit more courteously. It could have been, just never is what you say or how you do it, but it's the way that you say it, the way that you do it. So.
Well, concur. I don't know what happened. We do know there was a removal. We do know this, and I love 3500 John Muir Boulevard with all my heart. That is the address to TSU. You hear me? Tiger born, tiger bred, and when I die, I be tiger dead. You hear me? I bleed blue. Because of the turmoil, because of the upheaval, we knew there was going to be some, as we would say, heads was going to have to roll. Somebody's got to take a part. Now, should it have been done at that particular point in time? I don't think so.
That part.
Because you're on a Zoom.
Yeah.
That I was actually invited to the interview by Zoom or by Microsoft Team. You're on a Zoom meeting.
And it's recorded.
And it's being recorded. So I'm not the liaison or that guy, but you and I both know, Orlando, some things was going to have to change, and they did.
The one thing the student president said is that they were notified on a Thursday. They made the announcement that it was going to be done, and then they already had the appointment by Thursday afternoon. How are you going to have all of that in the same day? The appointments, all those people that were former TSU people, they were already appointed the same day.
So that decision,
they have been working behind the scenes.
That decision,
that
decision was made on Monday.
So therefore, then when you talk
exactly.
about,
or 2 Mondays ago.
So that's what I'm saying. When you think about how it was communicated or done. This is the same government. That's what I'm getting back to.
Right.
That you're saying you're working with. They had, because when you talk about having in faith, come on now, we understand that there's a way that you do things when you operate in faith.
Right, but they're still mean Christians.
Well, that's when I'm getting back to my man right here, my pastor here.
But it doesn't mean that the governor's not operating in faith. It could just be that he's the Lord is still working on him.
He's a work in progress.
Exactly.
I will say this. I mean, like we all know in business, things happen before they happen.
Exactly.
And most of us who sit in seats know what's happening. And I'm grateful for the new direction. I'm grateful for the old direction. I'm just grateful for the direction of TSU. Kudos to those individuals who did serve under the conditions they served in. The removal of that board stunned me. I'm like you. Whoa! It stunned me.
Well, let me add this part too, because that's the other thing he said as well. He said the audit, which is the so-called audit that was supposed to be done, that was done on Thursday.
Okay.
The findings of it. So how can you say that the removal was going to be based off the findings of the audit? The audit came in on Thursday. The announcement was made, and the replacements were already made on the same day.
Right.
So there wasn't even an in-depth analysis of the audit.
Exactly.
And so this is where we get back to rhetoric. My beginning point was, it's never what you say or what you do, but it's the way in which it's done it and the manner. And so basically, I think the removal of the board stunned the whole community. It stunned everybody. I mean, that
I'm
was
in
just
shock.
like,
I'm
what?
still in shock. And I haven't grieved.
Right.
And there's 5 stages to the grieving process.
And I guess for me, it was a shock. I mean, not as a TSU Tiger, because I didn't graduate there. But what I'm saying is I think it was a shock from a national perspective, because you have a lot of state HBCUs, okay?
Yep.
And so when this happens, what that does is that sets legal precedents for Southern, that sets legal precedents for North Carolina A&T, that sets legal precedents for Alabama State. So now if a governor, even though he loved Jesus, is coming in and saying, well, I can do all this in one day and you no longer have power and I can take that away from you. What is that saying for all of our other state HBCUs? Because now that's going to be a precedent that was set. And so now it could be, maybe I don't like the haircut that another board member has, so I can come in and remove if I'm a governor of another state, because it's already been done.
But I guess the bigger thing of it is the timing of it.
Right.
Because this timing where these HBCUs have been in red states and blue states and everything like that. But this didn't come into the recognizing of this so-called power until it was uncovered of the amount of billions of dollars owed to HBCUs.
Exactly.
So that what makes it so peculiar of the
Political.
time when you...
It makes it more political.
It makes it more...
Political.
Absolutely, because these schools are now owed this money.
Right.
And that's to change the whole trajectory of a lot of these universities and how they have been educating. And like I even brought up that they talk about the time frame from the money that TSU been owed probably since 89 or something like that. And I came close to going to TSU, but from 89 to 2016 or whatever it was, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some type of class action lawsuit from those students who graduated from that time, because they were hindered possible, all kind of incentives that the school could have had if they only had that kind of money. You know what I mean?
Right.
I
The resources.
I still had to pay money. I still probably some
Right.
people may still have student loans from 89. Who knows?
Well,
You know
I mean,
what
even when they do purging, right? And so they have students who you pay a portion of your bill, but you can't pay the second semester, so then you have to leave early,
right.
And so not even that, but then when you talked about, possibly some type of lawsuit, there could be something looking down the line for a lot of these state historically black institutions that were awarded this money that never received this money, because you have to also count inflation in there.
Yeah.
So that means, they may have been awarded $1 million in 1890, 1920, 1989, whatever, but now that may be $3 billion.
Right.
I don't know, Pastor.
Well, we've said so many things, and reflecting on what both of you had said, when you talk about HBCUs, when you talk about those being land grant institutions that started in systems that literally kept them behind the eight ball, possibly in those individuals, who the Southerns, the schools who started literally in the late 1800s, and we know what the social structure and capital was then. Never thinking those institutions will probably get to where they are today. It's interesting that somebody has to own that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry. I'm not apologizing for anybody, or I'm not apologizing to anybody.
Yeah.
Even to my foreparents who went and graduated, because we're 3 generations deep. But somebody has to own some of this.
Yeah.
And that generation who knew they had done, let's call it flat foot wrong, left a debt and an apology to a generation who did not get to experience that.
So the whole part, though, is when you say about these faith-based
Initiatives.
initiatives.
Yes.
When I know as a Christian, there's a certain thing that operates in my spirit. It's called conviction.
Okay.
When I feel like I've done something wrong, I have to repent, and usually I try to make it good as best as I can. You know what I mean? So in you sitting down with the government, and they can come in and say, hey, yeah, we want to do these faith-based initiatives, but there comes a true walk with that if you wrong something in another end, or do you not think you're wrong? Because we understand there's Christians who operate now that don't think they're wrong, and we see it on both sides of the thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? People have disagreements. That's why we have so many denominations right now, because people disagree about, hey, I don't want to worship like that. I want to worship like this.
Right. But I guess the other thing is, yes, the governor did order for them to be removed. However, was it somebody who was a little too liberal and took a little too much initiative? It's like, well, I'm going to just do it now because I got the email. Or was it someone, was it actually the governor who jumped in and cut, interrupted the Zoom call and said, we weren't there, so we don't know. But again, sometimes people who are put in positions of power, that can cause us, especially as Christians, even if we love Jesus, even though we love the Lord, that can cause us to stumble a little bit. So I'm not saying his faith-based initiatives are not pure and his intentions aren't pure. What I'm saying is, could there have been somebody else who's working for the governor that said, we're just going to do this right now? Because it may not have been him. He may just said, okay, I know we're going to do this by Friday. We're going to do this next week, whenever. But was there somebody in whose office who wanted to prove a point and got a little bit too power hungry and maybe they handled it the wrong way.
Well,
I like the scenario, and I say this: the higher you go up the leadership ladder, you do know there are so many things you really don't have control over.
Exactly.
You're really a figurehead, oftentimes, even in the role of a pastor. I mean, there's some things that have to be handled in the immediate that sometimes I just can't get to. And I don't even want to give the time to deliberate, to make a decision. There is something called decision fatigue. And we have run into that.
Yes.
And at any leader who has the radar on him or her is always bombarded with decisions. And you have your other agencies. So we do know, as a leader, you are to create change and facilitate growth, some of your principles, whatever you live by as a leader. But in this particular situation, as my grandmama said, there's no right way to break bad news.
Exactly.
You gonna get this get right now. Y'all remember we were growing up in Orlando?
Yeah.
My papa said, fix the flat where it go flat, else you warp the rim. Mm-hmm. Old Southern talk.
Yeah.
So we do know that our love for TSU will never change. Actually, it's going to increase. We know there was going to be a whole lot of changes, and we do know it's going to be, let me just keep my mouth shut. There's going to be a whole lot of changes, and I just think some of the influences are going to come from government.
So I guess the key part is that many who have worked with TSU over the years had always said, man, it's just like pulling teeth in a sense on certain things. And I guess the point I'm trying to make is how it was done. I heard people talking about, hey, we need to stand up and do all this and that. But you have the other segment like, okay, maybe they do need to make some change. The key into what I'm saying from the standpoint of from Christians, though, when you see an injustice, do you say something for the sake of the injustice, or because you say, well, they probably needed it anyway? You know what I'm saying? Because that's the war that we have to go in.
Right.
That
The
we
internal
go,
battle.
Exactly.
So let's let us, or me, or you, or her, define what is the real injustice. Is the injustice not giving us money? Is the injustice people not operating at their maximum human responsibility and capital? Is the injustice what is the injustice? Because I don't want to pick 3 fights. That's what I don't want to do. I can't whoop everybody.
Right.
And I need, as a community leader, to figure out what I'm going to make, what I'm going to communicate, what is the real necessity and the need at this moment in hour. Like what is the injustice? What are the injustices? And we have several to pick and choose from. But I have to be emotionally
Mature
enough to just deal with one at a time.
Well, I think that's the other thing. I think because there were so many injustices along the way. I mean, we've heard the stories about, TSU students not having enough dorms, sleeping in churches. I went to a HBCU where we actually protested against our leadership, as a student body, and had the backing of our alumni and our board. And I went to Bennett. I'm a Bennett Bell. We do it well.
Wonderful.
But I think because there were so many different injustices, that was possibly, and not giving validation to the way it was done, but that was possibly why the reason the governor's like, you know what, let's just get rid of everybody, because I don't know where. It's almost like when you buy a bunch of strawberries. Have you ever bought a bunch of strawberries? I have. And sometimes I'm like, I'm going to rinse them off, and I let them sit a little long. Well, when I go pick the strawberry, one strawberry got mold, then the next one connected to it got molded, then the other. So by the time, instead of me sitting there trying to pick through I'm going to just throw that whole batch of strawberries away and start fresh. And I think that was the understanding here. But again, it was just because we're not working with strawberries, we're working with people, and people that have emotions. We felt like, I feel, as African Americans, as HBCU graduates, that we no longer had a say in our own board and our own education, because that was taken away from us. And I think that's also one of the misnomers sometimes that we don't understand. Yes, TSU is a HBCU. It's a historically black college university all day, HBCU, but it is a state school.
Right.
And I think sometimes we misunderstand that. So as Christians, when we say, oh, it was done wrong, yes, it was done wrong, but sometimes we don't want to give truth to power and understand who really has the power.
And
If it's a state school,
right.
the state has
school.
the power.
The state has always had the power.
And we can have presidents and figureheads and everybody else, but the state is the one with the power. So again, if the power says let's go, then we
Let's
have
go.
to respect what the power says, you know?
Right.
So
Okay, well, like I said, hearing from the student body president who was on the board, it just came off in a sense of, like I said, the audit did not, when they were using the basis of the audit, what they were going to find. And the audit wasn't even in discovery enough to find what the issue was, and everything was done on the same day. That made it seem fishy.
oh yeah, it was sneaky. I'm not saying that it wasn't. And I'm not saying that it was done the proper way. But what I'm saying is, again, understand truth to power. It's a state school. We are not in control of what the state funds operate. We've never been in control. And I think that's the misnomer.
Right, but that has to be communicated.
But how
Over-
many generations has it not been communicated?
Until now.
Well,
and until now.
But how did we get in that state in the first place of where it was, where they say, okay, need to make these changes, because the state was nowhere to be found.
Well, let's
until
be
that
honest.
money came up, until that money discovery was made.
Right, but let's be honest, before the money discovery, TSU had always had, just like any other HBCU, we can go through the list of HBCUs, state school, private schools, Bethune-Cookman, they've all had issues. And so when your funding is having, vice presidents and provosts and people who are driving Lexuses and Mercedes, and you still don't have air conditioning in your libraries, or you still don't have air conditioning in your student halls or adequate plumbing, come on, there's a hair in the butter right there.
Yeah, you're right.
Right?
You're right.
So, I mean, I feel like even though I'm not a TSU Tiger, I understand the HBCU struggle where we literally had to stand in line. I'm a 2002 graduate. So,
you knew.
yeah.
You felt it. You still got the adverse
Listen,
childhood.
the first time I went
experience.
to graduate school and I didn't have to stand in line,
You was like, what's this?
I thought something was wrong.
You said, Mama, I'm in heaven. You said, I've been in heaven. I've been delivered.
So wait a minute. You mean I could just scan my card if I want a Coke or if I want?
Yeah.
We didn't have those experiences.
No. But those experiences make us who we are.
Wow.
And we know Orlando, let's just be honest, and we'll land our plane here. Now there's a wake-up call to us. Those who are alum, those who are not, those who've enjoyed it. Y'all, we now understand what POWER is. Power.
Yeah.
We understand that.
Yeah. And I guess my point, though, are you feeling after the meeting with the same government that the initiatives, and I know that it comes from two different parts of, you can say two different parts of town or whatever, but when it's old saying, when a person show you who they are, believe them. Are you comfortable with these initiatives that you're saying, like you said, going from the community, that these things could be done not politically, but hey, this needs to be done? Is my question to you.
I feel encouraged and empowered after today, based upon that I had buy-in.
Gotcha.
Never until today, in my 24 years as shepherding, have I had any buy-in at the legislative level.
Okay.
I'm not up there fighting. I'm not up in there with a bullhorn. This is not a rally. This is solutions. And to have buy-in, to ask us to come and present our concerns, our challenges, our convictions, our compassion, and to have people to listen. I feel for literally to listen and listen at a level where they're empathetic. I feel great about that on the faith-based side. I feel wonderful. I feel like it gives us a lot to talk about. On my shows, it's going to give, as you know, I've been bringing in some guests from other persuasions. I feel like a new level of collaboration and a community within a community is being birth right now as we speak.
Okay.
That will help aid to the next time a 5-year-old decides I'm going to go through school. I'm going to TSU, Mom. By the time they get to TSU, they will have been empowered with the resources to swipe their card.
Exactly.
You hear me? It won't be our experience.
Exactly.
Grilled cheese.
Amen. Amen. All right, you're listening to Straight Talk right here on 790 AM 104.9 FM, The Gospel. We're going to take this quick commercial break, and we'll come back to finish up the show. Our guest today, Miss Kyra Wright and Pastor Dr. Cornelius Hill of the Ephesians Baptist Church. We're going to come back and wrap up this show. We're going to talk about, as we start the show, about these different signs going on. Ask the pastor about how he's preaching to the congregation. You see earthquakes and eclipse and all that stuff happening all the time. How you calm the Christians down thinking they say Jesus on his way. Keep it locked right here on Straight Talk. We'll be right back.